Many years back, in the lively area of Katuchra in Windhoek, there lived a young woman named Anapua. She ran a small poultry setup behind her flat, raising chickens with dedication. Each day, before the first light painted the sky, she would rise, sweep the yard, clean out the cages, feed her birds, and gather the fresh eggs. After that, she'd get dressed and head off to the local markets where she sold eggs and neatly prepared chicken meat. Locals fondly nicknamed her Miss Chicken, admiring her work ethic. Anapua had been in a relationship with Lucas Cambodi for 3 years. Lucas was a civil engineer working in the city, living in a flat at Eros, provided through his company. He was the only son of Mikula Hilda, a retired school headmistress now spending most of her days at home due to her high blood pressure and aching joints. He also had a younger sister, Talina, who was in her 3rd year studying accounting at the University of Namibia. Lucas and Anapua had first crossed paths at a youth conference, and from then on, everything between them felt magical. He supported her even when her business struggled, even when her body ached from long hours of farm work, even when her hands were rough, and her hair undone. He loved her deeply and showed it often. Then, one Sunday after lunch at a small restaurant, Lucas went down on one knee, pulled out a ring box, and said, "Amela, my chicken queen, will you be my wife?" The crowd around them erupted in joy. Anapua, teary-eyed, said yes. For days after that, she was filled with delight, dancing as she fed her chickens, singing while boiling water. She wore her ring proudly and used "my fiancé" in nearly every conversation. Her mother glowed with happiness, and her best friend Selma was already preparing to be her bridesmaid. When Lucas said it was time to officially meet his family, Anapua didn't take it lightly. She asked for advice on what kind of gifts to present to a Namibian mother-in-law, wanting to be respectful without going overboard. She chose handmade baskets, packets of dried fish, mahanga flour, a beautiful headscarf, and some perfume. She wrapped them neatly, added a card, and put on her finest modest outfit. During the drive to his family's house, she nervously asked Lucas whether his mother liked pepper, whether she should cut it twice or once, and if Talina would be at home. Lucas simply chuckled and said, "Relax, you're already perfect. No need to overdo anything." But the moment they stepped into the house, something changed. Mikula Hilda sat stiffly in her armchair, dressed in formal traditional wear, glasses low on her nose. Talina, sitting nearby with her earphones in, glanced up briefly and went back to her phone. Anapua greeted warmly and presented the gifts, smiling brightly, but what she got in return was cold. Mikula Hilda didn't return the smile. Instead, she asked bluntly, "Where did you get the money for all of this?" "From Lucas, or where exactly?" Anapua blinked, then answered with a shy smile, "I run a poultry business, Mama. I raise chickens, that's how I got the money." Hilda just muttered something under her breath and turned away. Talina didn't greet her at all. After a while, she left for the kitchen and when she returned, didn't even offer Anapua a glass of water. The room stayed awkwardly quiet. Lucas tried lightening the mood with jokes and conversation, but the tension lingered. It was painfully clear, they didn't welcome her. On the ride back, Anapua couldn't hold it in. "Why do I feel like your mom and sister don't like me?" she asked. Lucas squeezed her hand and said, "No, no. That's just how my mom is with new people. Don't let it worry you." Later that night, when she told Selma what had happened, Selma shook her head slowly. "My sister," she said, "if you're planning to marry into a family that dislikes you from the start, and the man is close to them, then prepare yourself. You won't just be fighting for your marriage. You'll be battling in-laws, and your own peace." But Anapua's heart told her to hold on, because Lucas loved her. That, she believed, was enough. Still, deep inside, a quiet voice whispered, "They do not want you. And they will show you pepper." Even so, Anapua moved forward and started planning the wedding with Lucas. She put in extra effort, too much even, trying to win over his family, especially Talina. She brought her chocolates, perfume, even airtime. Once, she ordered sneakers online just because Talina had casually mentioned liking them. But the girl rarely thanked her. Whenever she visited Lucas at his flat, things started out great, laughing, chatting, watching movies. But without fail, Talina would show up uninvited, and the atmosphere would shift. She'd act as if Anapua didn't exist, or worse, she'd make rude comments. One Saturday, Anapua prepared ashafima and chicken stew, plating it beautifully for Lucas. Talina arrived, looked at the food, and laughed loudly. "Is this what you call cooking? Ha! Even our dog at home would bark at this dry food." Anapua chuckled nervously. "You're just teasing, right?" But Talina rolled her eyes. "You'll know if I'm teasing when you finally marry into this family." Lucas waved it off, saying, "Don't mind her, babe. Talina just likes being a comedian." But to Anapua, it didn't feel like comedy. It felt like a message. Still, she kept quiet. She didn't want to sound like a nag who couldn't get along with her future in-laws. Her mother had always said a woman preparing for marriage should learn to sweep in silence, eat with elders, and avoid pointless quarrels. So Anapua stayed. And tried even harder to earn their approval. One afternoon, Lucas needed to deliver some medication to his mother, and Anapua decided to go with him, hoping it would be a good opportunity to finally connect with her future mother-in-law. She even prepared a traditional meal, beans and groundnut soup, neatly packed in a clean container, along with a small note that read, "Get well soon, Mama." When they arrived, Lucas stepped out briefly to chat with a neighbor, and Anapua remained inside, smiling politely, waiting for the older woman to taste the food she brought. That's when Mikula Hilda turned slowly, adjusted her glasses, and said in a voice as cold as a winter wind, "Let me be clear. I do not like you. And you are not welcome here. You can bring all the food you like, beans, chicken, it doesn't matter. It won't change how we feel. If you are wise, pack your pride and leave while the game is still in half-time." Anapua began trembling, as if she'd been slapped without a hand. Her eyes widened in disbelief, but something inside her told her not to react. So she smiled gently and replied, "Thank you, Mama. I've heard you." When Lucas came back, she said nothing. She smiled, took the empty bowl to the kitchen, and acted every bit the respectful daughter-in-law. But once she got home, she broke down in tears. Her heart ached, not because of the insult, but because of the calm cruelty in the woman's voice. It wasn't shouted, it was deliberate and ice-cold. That evening, she told her mother. The old Owambo woman, seasoned by years of hardship, miscarriage, and marriage, sighed deeply and said, "A home that rejects you from the beginning will wound your soul later. Be careful, my child. Love is never enough when your husband's family is watching, waiting for you to fall." Still, Anapua clung to hope. She convinced herself that Lucas loved her enough to protect her. She believed that her kindness would win them over. She believed that love was stronger than hate. On the wedding day, she wore a beautiful mermaid-style dress with a flowing veil. Lucas looked sharp and princely in his cream-colored suit and polished brown shoes. The sight of them together was emotional. Selma, her closest friend, cried tears of joy. Even Mikula Hilda and Talina wore smiles, though they didn't reach their eyes. After the ceremony, she moved into Lucas's flat, and for a while, things felt peaceful. Lucas still called her, "my chicken girl," sometimes surprising her with flowers or nighttime drives through Windhoek to grab shawarma. They laughed in bed at night, and during the day, she managed her poultry business from a rented space nearby. But 3 months in, everything shifted. One evening, while she was at the market, Lucas called. "Babe, Mama's not doing too well again. Her blood pressure's unstable. The doctor says she shouldn't stay alone anymore." Anapua's heart dropped. "So what does that mean?" "It means she'll be staying with us. Just until she gets better," he said. She nodded. What else could she do? She was a wife now, and wives endure. Wives support. The very next morning, Mikula Hilda arrived with 2 big boxes and her mattress. Talina followed behind, arms crossed, her face saying loud and clear, "We told you so." At first, it was bearable. Anapua cooked, cleaned, and made room for them. She served her mother-in-law's meds with tea and smiled even when Hilda barely looked at her. But soon, the real storm started. During the first week, Hilda, accidentally, poured hot soup on Anapua's foot while pretending to cook. In the second week, she began vomiting around the house, never in the bathroom, always near Anapua's new rug. When Anapua gently suggested hiring a helper, Hilda snapped, "Isn't this what you signed up for when you forced yourself into our family?" Talina started showing up more frequently. When she visited, she and her mother whispered behind closed doors, occasionally glancing at Anapua and laughing. Whenever she entered the room, they would either pause their gossip or pretend to be watching TV. Lucas was hardly around. His road construction job kept him away for days. So Anapua became nurse, maid, cook, and companion all by herself. Her poultry business started to suffer. She missed deliveries, customers complained, birds died from being underfed, and finances grew tight. Still, she endured. She kept telling herself it was just a phase, Lucas would return, and things would improve. Then came the day it all burned. She had rushed to the market to deliver egg crates. While she was gone, Hilda collapsed in the living room, lightly hitting her head on the coffee table. It wasn't serious. But when Lucas came back and heard about it, he exploded. "How could you leave her alone like this?" he shouted. "She could have died. I was only gone for a few hours." But he wasn't listening. That was the first time he shouted at her like that. Anapua stood frozen, clutching a bag of chicken feed, stunned more by his reaction than his words. That night, Hilda smirked proudly as Lucas personally carried water to her room, while Anapua sat alone on the bathroom floor, knees tucked to her chest, crying like a lost little girl. Selma's words echoed in her mind, "If the family hates you and your man is tied to them like okra to soup, you will suffer. One day, he'll be the one handing them the knife to slice your piece." Now she understood. This marriage was fire, and her feet were already burning. By the 6th month, Anapua was worn out. Exhausted. Her once thriving business now ran on faith and pity. The same girl who once danced joyfully while packing eggs now dragged herself through her own home. Meanwhile, Mikula Hilda had grown bolder. Each morning, she demanded hot water for her bath. Then came breakfast orders, boiled eggs, soft pap, fried fish, not too oily, not too dry. She barked orders like a general, never once asking, "How are you?" Never once saying, "Thank you." When Lucas returned home, she'd suddenly become fragile again, coughing dramatically, pretending to limp. Lucas, sweet and unsuspecting, would kiss her forehead and call her strong. Anapua now lived in 2 worlds. In one, she was a cherished wife. In the other, she was a tired servant. One Sunday, she received news that her mother up north had fallen ill. It wasn't serious, but she needed someone to stay with her for a few days. Anapua told Lucas and pleaded, "Please, ask your cousin to stay with Mama just for a week. I need to go see my mother." Lucas scratched his head, looking unsure. "You want to leave her alone?" "It's only a few days," she begged. "I'll be back soon." He sighed, "All right. I'll try to find someone." But the next day came and no one showed up. Lucas had already left early for his trip, saying he'd talk to his cousin later. Anapua decided to wait one more day, just to be sure. That evening, while making dinner, she suddenly heard a loud crash in the bathroom. She rushed over and found her mother-in-law on the floor, groaning. She had slipped, her legs trembling. Panicked, Anapua reached out to help, but Hilda smacked her hand away. "Don't touch me. You want to kill me now, Abi? You poisoned the floor." Anapua froze. "Mama, what do you mean?" I was only trying to help. Keep quiet. Do you think I don't know? You're trying to get rid of me and confuse my son. She stood there speechless, unsure how to respond. Later that night, Lucas called his mother. And as expected, she did what she always did best. She coughed dramatically, cried, and said in a broken voice, "Lucas, that girl nearly ended my life today. She wants to erase me from your world." Lucas didn't even ask Anapua what happened. An hour later, he called and said, "Maybe, it's best you just stay back when you go visit your mom." Anapua blinked, confused. "What are you saying?" "I just think a little space might help." She didn't sleep that night. Her mother's words returned like a haunting echo, "A home that never wanted you will keep trying until you walk away." The next morning, Talina came to take over care duties. Anapua quietly packed a small bag and traveled north. She stayed there for 3 weeks, and not once did Lucas call her. Then one morning, Selma sent a message, "Your husband is back in Windhoek." "Did he tell you?" Shocked, Anapua dialed Lucas. His voice was cold. "Luke, you're back. I needed space." "I'm with Mama now," he replied. "But you didn't even tell me." "You never asked," he said flatly. And that was the moment she realized, he had made his choice. And it wasn't her. He chose the woman who never hid her hatred for her. Anapua looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "If he could choose her over me now, what will he do tomorrow? How did I even get here?" This wasn't the life she had prayed for. Not the dream she had fasted for. Not the love story she had imagined the day he knelt with a gold ring and called her his peace. A month after being in the north, her mother called her into the bedroom and gently asked, "Anapua, when are you returning to your home?" She paused, then smiled and replied, "When I'm strong enough, Mama." But deep down she knew, this wasn't about strength anymore. It was about choice. And hers was now due. A week later, Lucas appeared at her compound. He looked thinner, worn out. When she saw him approaching the doorway, her heart felt strange, a mix of fear, anger, and quiet relief. He greeted her mother politely. The woman nodded, cold and silent. Then Lucas pulled her aside. "Baby. I'm sorry." She folded her arms and said nothing. "Mama's been difficult. I won't lie. She's just old and acting out." Still, Anapua said nothing. "I should have defended you more. I know. I should have called. But I felt trapped. I didn't want to lose my mother." She finally spoke. "So instead, you were ready to lose your wife?" Lucas looked down at the ground. "I thought you'd understand." Anapua let out a cold smile. "Oh, I understood. I understood when your mother poured hot pap on my foot and called it an accident. When she threw up on my dress and claimed she missed the toilet. I understood when Talina started visiting just to roll her eyes and mock me in my own home. I understood, until I had nothing left to understand." Lucas reached for her hand. "Let's start again. Please. I miss you. Let's go back to what we had." Anapua took a deep breath, then spoke calmly, her words falling like heavy stones. "I'm not coming back, Lucas." Lucas froze. "The day your mother accused me of trying to kill her after slipping in the bathroom, you didn't even ask what happened. You just shouted like I meant nothing. Something broke in me that day. And I can't repair it. But, we're married." "To who? Me or your mother?" Lucas had no answer. Anapua continued. "This marriage, it was doomed from the beginning. I ignored the signs. I believed love was enough. But love without protection is suffering. Love without boundaries is punishment. Your family rejected me, and you let them win. I've made peace with it now. I forgive you. But no. I'm not coming back." Lucas stood there helplessly. "So, this is it." Anapua nodded. "This is me choosing peace. Something I haven't had since becoming your wife." Lucas wiped his eyes, turned around, and slowly walked to his car. As he drove off, Anapua stood still, watching the dust trail behind his tires. And she whispered to herself, "If I ever marry again, it will be into a home where I am celebrated, not tolerated." When Lucas returned to Windhoek without his wife, the house felt like a tomb, quiet, but not peaceful. His mother, Mikula Hilda, sat calmly in the parlor watching TV, a wrapper tied around her chest, a warm cup of tea in hand. The moment she saw him, she asked casually, "So, you didn't bring her back?" He dropped his bag on the floor without answering. He walked quietly into the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, and leaned against the counter. As he looked around, he began to notice things he'd never paid attention to before: the dirty dishes piled up, the dust collecting on the window frame, the general messiness of the space. The house now felt hollow, shapeless, and strangely lifeless. Later that evening, when his mother asked what he'd like her to cook, Lucas responded with a cold edge, "You're strong. You can make anything yourself." She turned toward him slowly and stared. "Oh, so now I must cook because your little wife has run off?" He didn't reply. She hissed, got up grumbling, and shuffled into the kitchen. Lucas remained seated, the TV playing in the background, but he couldn't even hear it. His mind wandered back to the past few months, to all the times he looked away when his mother belittled Anapua, the excuses he made for Talina's disrespect, the moments he stayed silent when his wife needed defending. But his silence had cost him everything. Things only worsened from there. Lucas became exhausted, moody, and constantly on edge. His performance at work began to slip. Missed meetings, forgotten deadlines, sudden outbursts at junior staff. It wasn't long before his boss called him in. "Lucas, is everything okay at home?" He forced a weak smile. "Yes sir, just some family matters." But it wasn't something small. It was growing bigger by the day. Back home, Mikula Hilda began complaining of back pain. He took her to the clinic, and the doctor recommended physiotherapy. But Lucas quickly realized he couldn't manage it all. For the first time, he saw how much Anapua had been handling: cooking, laundry, cleaning, care, things he never appreciated when they were being done. One Saturday, he had just finished mopping when Talina came by. She walked in, wrinkled her nose, and sneered, "EW. This house smells like bleach and misery. Where's your wife?" Lucas snapped, "If it stinks, you can go back to wherever you came from." Talina laughed, thinking he was joking. "Relax, I was just asking." But he wasn't. He raised his voice again, angrier this time. "You're never helpful. Never supportive. Just always mocking. Do you think marriage is a game?" Talina was stunned. Lucas had never yelled at her before. She grabbed her bag and stormed out. That evening, Lucas sat on the floor and broke down in tears. "I should have stood up for her. I should have told them to stop," he whispered. But his regrets came too late. Deep down, he knew Anapua was already too far gone to return. 6 months later, she stood in front of her mirror, tying a headscarf over her freshly braided hair. Her face glowed again. She was back in Katuchara, and her poultry business was thriving. Her clients had returned, and somehow, so had her joy. One day, just as she was preparing to leave for the market, a car pulled up in front of her home. She glanced outside and saw Lucas step out of his dusty Toyota Hilux, holding a white envelope and looking unsure. He greeted her politely. She nodded in response. They sat under a tree. "How are you, Una?" "Better than I expected," she replied. He gave a faint smile. "I'm glad." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Lucas extended the envelope. "I brought this, some money. And your things. I don't know if you want them." But she gently cut him off. Lucas, I don't want anything that will tie me to the past. Lucas nodded. I understand. Then, softly, he added, Mama passed last week. Anapua blinked. In a second, memories rushed to her, the cruel insults, the vomiting, the accusations, yet, she felt no anger or satisfaction. Only peace. I'm sorry, she said. Thank you, he replied. As he stood to leave, he paused and said something unexpected. If I ever remarry, I pray I become a better man. She didn't reply. She simply smiled. A quiet, peaceful smile, because now she understood something deeper than love. Peace is more valuable than position. Thank you for watching this story. Please share your thoughts in the comments. What did this story teach you? If it touched you, share it with someone who needs it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next story. Until next time, bye.